Very good morning, all of you. Today, I'm going to start a new topic in the radar and TV engineering, that is the radar applications and the frequencies. So, in the previous section, we already discussed the basic things of the radar. What is the radar? What are the construction and the working principle of the radar? So we have already discussed these points in a previous section. We have already designed the radar block diagram and already discussed the range of the radar. In last sections, we already discussed the maximum unambiguous range of radar. So today we are going to discuss the radar applications and the frequencies in the different sections. The main objective of this lecture is to learn the radar fundamentals, operating frequencies, and the applications. So, in this lecture, you will able to understand the concept of the frequency spectrum of radar, and the application. What are the different applications and where the radar is applicable in the different fields. So, today we have the basic concept of the radar for the surveillance and the tracking. So in this section, we also discuss the different type of the radars also. So today we are going to learn the basic operation frequency of radars and the basic applications in the military, civilians, industrial, and the airport or in the airline systems. So these are the different applications. Contents of the today's lecture is the first we will discuss the introduction of the radar. What are the types of the radars, radar frequencies, radar applications. So these are the main content of this video lecture. After going through or watching through this video lecture, you will be able to understand the basic frequency mechanism or frequency division of the radars, and you will also be able to understand the application of radars. After these two topics, we will discuss the basics type of the radars, and after that we have some multiple choice question. These are the textbooks. uh, Introduction to the radar systems, Maril Skonic, Tata McGraw-Hill, Special Indian Edition, second edition, Tata McGraw-Hill. Introduction to the radar systems, Skolnick, third edition, Tata McGraw-Hill. Radar Principles, Technology, Application, Ron Edith Pearson Education, 2004. Principles of the Modern Radar, Basic Principle by Mark A. Richard Jams and the Sheer William A. Home, SG 2013. Radar Handbook by M.I. Skolnick, second edition, Tata McGraw-Hill. And last reference book is the Understanding the Radar Systems by the Simon Kinsley and Sean Fink, Scientech publication, McGraw-Hill. These are the textbook and reference book. If you will go through with these books, that is the textbook by M.I. Skolnick by Tata McGraw-Hill, you will easily understand the basic concept of radar. You will also able to understand the frequency mechanism and the frequency division or frequency bands in radars by governed by the ITU and IEEE societies, and you will also able to understand the operation and applications of radar. Outcome of this video lecture is the student will understand the concept of the radar frequencies. They will learn the different frequency of radar, where they applicable, and what bands we are able to use by the different governing bodies, that is the ITU and IEEE. They decide the different bands of radars. They also learn the different application of radar. Means student will able to understand the concept of radar with their particular frequencies, and where we can use a different radar for a different applications. So they will also understand the applications as a with respect to the frequency. Introduction. Again, the radar is a stand for the radio detection and ranging. Means radar is the device or system which is used to detection and ranging, and it is the primarily a detection tool which detects the target and the object. The source of that detection mechanism is the radio waves. So the basic building block or basic backbone of radar is the radio waves. Through radio waves, the radar is able to detect the object or target. Radar is an electromagnetic system for the detection and the location of the objects. It operates by transmitting a particular type of the waveform, a pulse modulated sine wave, for example, and detects the nature of the echo signal. So our radar is work on the concept of the electromagnetic waves, and it is basically to design a system to detect the object and locate the object. And in this operation of radar system, the transmitting a pulse, particularly that is known as a transmitting pulse by the magnetron source, which is used in the transmitter section. So we are able to understand that the basic concept of radar is to detect and find and locate the our any object, to detect the nature of the echo signal. So our in terms of echo signal. In the next section, we have the radar frequencies. What are the different frequencies used by radars? So conventional radars are operated at the frequencies extending from about 220 megahertz to the 35 gigahertz. A spread of more than 7 octaves. These are not necessarily limits, since the radar can be and have been operated at the frequency outside the either end of this range. So this is the lower limit and the upper limit of the radars. In this, we are able to understand that the 220 megahertz to 30 megahertz is the a band of radar frequency operation. Beyond this, the radar is also able to work. So outside of this frequency, we are able to uh, apply in the radar system. So 35 megahertz is the upper rank, and beyond this, we are also able as our application. So next is the place of radar frequencies in the electromagnetic spectrum is shown in the figure. So in the electromagnetic spectrum, we have a particular designation of radar bands. A particular designation is assigned by the ITU and IEEE societies. So these radio wave bands is known as radar band or radar frequency bands, and it is specified in a particular band in the electromagnetic spectrum. Some of the nomenclature employed to designate the various frequency regions is also shown in this figure. So electromagnetic spectrum is shown in the figure. That is the total electromagnetic frequency spectrum, and this is the divided into the scale of the wavelength as well as the frequencies. So frequency and wavelength are uh, inversely proportional to the each other. Before discussing this, we are going to discuss the frequency bands. Here in the lower side or the bottom side of this image or the picture, it is shown that the frequency bands, that is the starting from the 30 hertz to the 3000 gigahertz. So 30 hertz to the 300 hertz is the one band. 300 hertz to the 3 kilohertz is the another band. Next is the 3 kilohertz to 30 kilohertz. Then we have a 30 kilohertz to 300 kilohertz. 3 megahertz to the 30 megahertz. 30 megahertz to the 300 megahertz. 300 to the 3 gigahertz. 3 gigahertz to the 30 gigahertz. 30 gigahertz to the 300 gigahertz, and 300 gigahertz to the 3000 gigahertz. So this is the frequency scale, and this frequency region is divided into the different region, that is the audio frequency region. Then we have a radio frequency region. Then we have a video frequency region, microwave region, and radar band or radar region, radar frequency range. So this is the complete frequency spectrum. Now we are coming on that the wavelength. In the term of the wavelength, if we are talking about the wavelength range is starting from the 10 kilometer. That is the maximum value of the wavelength, and it is going up to the zero point 0.1 centimeter millimeters. So that is the 10 kilometer to 1 kilometer is the one band. 1 kilometer to 100 meter is the second band. 100 meter to the 10 meter is the next, and 10 meter to the 1 meter is next. 1 meter to the 10 centimeter is another band, and 10 centimeter to the 1 centimeter is another next band, and 1 centimeter to the 1 millimeter, and then we have 0.1 nanometers. So this is the complete wavelength of the electromagnetic spectrum, and we have some frequency nomenclature, that is the VLF. VLF stands for the very low frequency, and the in the terms of we are talking about in the terms of the wavelength. So the micrometric waves is known as VLF, and LF is the low frequency. It is another band is known as in the case of the wavelength, we know that the kilometric waves. So the medium frequency band is the another band, and then we have the name in the terms of the wavelength is the hectometric waves, and band number 6. Next band is the HF. HF is stand for the high frequency band, and in the case of the wavelength, we also nomenclature that band is in the decometric waves, and band number 7. Further, we have the VHF band, that is the very high frequency band, or it is used in the TV receiver systems, and this is known as the metric waves. It is known as the metric waves, and it is also known as the band number 8. Next is the ultra high frequency, that is used in the nowadays in the TV receiver system, and its name in the terms of wavelength is the decimetric waves, and the band number 9 is the name of this band. And next is the SHF, super high frequency. It is known as the centimetric waves, and band number 10. EHF is the extremely high frequency, that is the millimetric waves, and it is known as the band number 11. So millimeter waves is the in the terms of the wavelength, and last is the band number 12, and it is known as the sub-millimeter waves or decimillimeter metric waves, and Our radar frequency band lies between the VHF to the EHF bands. This is the radar frequency band, and the medium frequency range, also known as the broadcast band, and high frequency band is also known as the OTH radar band, and the latter's designation in the radar frequency bands are L, S, C, X, KU, and Ka band. This is known as the microwave region or the microwave window. So this is our complete electromagnetic spectrum, through which we are understand the basic frequency bands with their corresponding wavelengths. Now, the latter code designation of radar frequencies. In previous spectrum band, we already discussed the S band, K band, Ka band, KU band, X band, L band. That is the latter, which is the governed for specifically for radars. In a development of a radar, a latter code such as the X, L, SXL, etc., was employed to designate the radar frequencies band. Although its original purpose was to guard the military secrecy, the designations were maintained probably out of the habit as well as the need for some convenient short nomenclature. These are the some short nomenclature in the radar frequency bands or radar designation. Its original purpose was to guard the military secrecy. So these type of the latter is generally used in the secrecy in the case of the military purpose, and they maintain the high security in the radar frequency bands. So latter code designation of radar frequency is nomenclature of radar frequency band in the case of the military applications. This use has the continued and is now an accepted the practice of the radar engineers. So all the radar engineers will accept these bands. They are habitual or they are familiar with these type of the bands. The table below lists the radar frequency ladder band nomenclatures adopted by the IEEE. These are the related to the specific bands assigned by the International Telecommunication Union for radar. So IEEE and ITU, that is the International Telecommunication Union for radar, uh, assigned the specific bands for the applications of radars. If you are going to design a particular radar, then you have to knowledge about the frequency bands of radar. Next, for the example, although the nominal frequency range for L band is the 1000 to the 2000, means this is the a particular frequency band for the case of our L band, that is the designated by L, alphabetical letter L. A L band radar is though thought of as being a confined within the region from the 1215 to the 1400 megahertz, since that is the extent of assigned band. It is the extension of assigned band. So the particular lower and upper range of the L band is the 1000 to 2000, and in this region we generally use the 1200 to 15 to 1400 megahertz, which is the region or the frequency range for L band. From this table, you easily understand that the L band is nominal frequency range is the 1000 to 2000. For the particular application of the radars by governing by the ITU is the 1215 to 1400 megahertz. Similarly, for the high frequency, very high frequency, UHF ultra high frequency, L band, S band, C band, X band, KU band, Ka band, K band and millimeter wave range is shown in the table, through which we are able to understand the nominal frequency range and the bands by on the ITU, International Telecommunication Union. So high frequency band consisting the nominal frequency range 3 to 30 megahertz. Similarly, VHF, that is the very high frequency band designation, consisting the nominal frequency range 30 to 300 megahertz. And the radar band is for 30 to 300 megahertz range. That is the particular radar band is given that the 138 to 144 megahertz. So 216 to 225 is the second band in the case of VHF. Next band is the UHF band, ultra high frequency. It is lies between the 300 to the 1000 megahertz in the case of the nominal frequency range. If we are talking about the radar band, so it will comes at 420 to 450 megahertz with 890 to 942 megahertz. And L band stand for the 1000 to the 2000 megahertz, and it is stand in the case of the radar bands, that is the 1215 to the 1400 megahertz. S band stand for 2000 to the 4000 megahertz, and in the case of radar bands governed by the ITU, it will becomes at 2300 megahertz to 2500 megahertz, and 2700 to the 3700. That is the second band in the S band. C band stand in the nominal frequency range, that is the 4000 to the 8000 megahertz, and in the case of the radar band by ITU, that is the 5250 to the 5925 megahertz. Now, band expand is 8000 to the 12,000 megahertz, and the radar band by the ITU is the 8500 to the 10,680 megahertz. KU band, that is the 12.280 gigahertz, and we have a 13.4 to 14 gigahertz KU band, and 15.7 to 17.7 gigahertz for the KU band by the ITU systems. K band stands from 18 to 27 megahertz, and in the case of the radar bands, specific radio location radar band by ITU, the K band stands from 24 to 05 to 24.25 gigahertz. Ka band stands from 27 to the 40 gigahertz. So we understand that the millimeter wave range is stand because if you will design into D equal to the epsilon, not epsilon r, E, D is equal to the epsilon E. So this is the thus the dielectric constant or the relative permittivity of the material epsilon r is the ratio of the permittivity to the free space. If the electric field is too strong, then it begins to strip electrons completely from the molecules, leading to the short-term conduction of electrons within the media. This is called the dielectric breakdown. The maximum strength of the electric field, that is a dielectric can tolerate a priority to which breakdown occurs, is called the dielectric strength. In the linear dielectrics, the permittivity epsilon does not change with the applied field E. Homogeneous dielectric do not change their permittivity from point to point within the material. Isotropic dielectrics do not change their dielectric constant with respect to the direction within the material. Two types of the dielectrics exist in the nature, polar and the non-polar. Non-polar dielectrics do not possess the dipole's moments until a strong electric field is applied. Polar dielectrics such as the water possess permanent dipole moments that further align, if possible, in the presence of an external field. Next, we have a conductor, semiconductor, and the insulators. It is the convenient to associate these energy level or energy states are permissible in given atom, and an electron must therefore absorb emit discrete amount of the energy or quanta in the passing from one level to the another level. In a crystalline solid such as a metal or a diamond, atoms are packed closely together. Many more permissible energy levels are available because of the interaction forces between the adjacent atoms. It can be observed that energies which may be caused by electrons are grouped into the broad ranges or bands, each band consisting of the very numerous closely spaced discrete level. At a temperature of the absolute zero, the normal solid also has a every level occupied, starting with the lowest and proceeding in order until all the electrons are located. The electrons with the highest, least negative, that is energy level, the valence electrons are located in the valence band. If there are permissible higher energy level in the valence band, or if the valence band merge smoothly into a conduction band, then the additional kinetic energy may be given to the valence electrons by an external field, resulting in an electron flow. The solid is called a conductor. The filled valence band and unfilled conduction band are shown for the conduction. So, in the case of the conductors, the filled valence band and the empty conduction band. There is the no energy gap in the case of the conductors. There is an energy gap in the case of the insulator in between the filled valence band and the empty conduction band. Next, we have the semiconductor materials. In the semiconductor material, we have a small energy gap as compared to the insulator. So there is the small energy gap in between of the filled valence band and the empty conduction band. If, however, the electron with the greatest energy occupies the top level in the valence band and a gap exists between the valence band and the conduction band, then the electron cannot accept the additional energy in the small amounts and the material is an insulator. The greatest energy occupy to the top level in the valence band and a gap exists between the valence band and the conduction band. In this case, there is the energy gap between the greatest energy gap between the conduction band and the valence band. The electron cannot accept the additional energy in the small amounts and the material is an insulator. So this type of the material is known as insulators. The band structure is the indicated in the above figure. Note that if a relatively large amount of the energy can be transferred to the electron, it may be sufficiently excited to jump the gap into the next band, where the conduction occurs easily. Here the insulator breaks down. An intermediate condition occurs when only a small forbidden region separates the two bands as indicated in the figure. Small amounts of the energy in the form of the heat or an electric field may raise the energy of the electrostatic, the top of the filled band and provide the basis for conduction. These materials are insulators which display many of the properties of the conductor and are called semiconductors. So semiconductor have the property of both type of the material, that is the insulator materials and the electric materials. So in this, we have a small energy gap between the conduction band and the valence band. Now, conductor free space boundary. When suddenly the charge distribution is unbalanced within a conducting material, there suddenly appear a number of the electrons in the interior of the conductor. The electrical field set up by these electrons are not countered by any positive charges, and the electrons begin to accelerate away from each other. This continues until the electrons reach to the surface of the conductor. Here, the outward progress of the electrons is stopped, for the material surrounding the conductor is an insulator, not possessing a conduction band. No charge will remain within the conductor. Hence, the final result within a conductor is zero charge density, and its surface charge density resides on the exterior surface. Also for a static condition in which no current may flow, the electric field intensity within the conductor is zero. So for electrostatics, no charge and no electric field may exist at any point within a conductor. Charge may appear on the surface as surface charge density. There will be a field external to the conductor, and this field can be decomposed into the two components, one tangential and one normal to the conductor surface. This is the free space conductor. We have a one normal and one tangential component of electric field vector and electric field density. The tangential component is seen to be zero. From this, you are able to understand that the tangential component to be zero. There will be a field external to the conductor, and this field can be decomposed into the two components, one tangential and one normal to the conductor surface. The tangential component is seen to be zero. If it were not zero, a tangential force would be applied to the elements of the surface, resulting in their motion and non-static conditions. Since static conditions are assumed, the tangential electric field intensity and electrical flux density are zero. So close integral of E dot dl equal to the zero. These are the relationship from the previous discussion, and E total equal to and delta W equal to zero. Here E total equal to zero. So the product of the E total into delta W equal to zero. Close integral of the D dot ds equal to the Q. Normal component of the D delta S equal to the rho S delta S. Normal component of the D equal to the rho S. This is equal to the dt equal to Et equal to 0. In the summary, the static electric field inside a conductor is 0. The static electric field intensity at the surface of a conductor is everywhere normal to the surface of the conductor. The conductor surface is an equipotential surface. Now, electric field in the material medium. Uh, we have discussed the conductor, insulator, semiconductor materials. Now we have to discuss the what is the electrical field in the material medium. Consider the charge distributions only in the free space and found its effect in the terms of electric field intensity, electric flux density, electrostatic potential. Now we will consider effect of charge distributions in the material medium. In general, based on the electric properties, materials can be classified into three categories: conductors, semiconductors, and insulators. dielectric. In the conductor, we have already discussed three types of the materials: conductor, semiconductor, and insulator. We have discussed all three. Insulator is also known as the dielectric. So we have discussed the basic mechanism of conductor, semiconductor, dielectric materials. In the conductors, electrons in the outermost shells of atom are very loosely held, and they migrate easily from one atom to the other. Most metals belong to this group. The electrons in the atoms of the insulators or dielectrics remain confined to their orbits, and under the normal circumstances, they are not liberated under the influence of an externally applied field. The electrical properties of semiconductors fall between those of conductors and insulators, since semiconductors have very few numbers of free charges. The parameter conductivity is used to characterize the macroscopic electrical properties of a material medium. Now, in the next section, we have some multiple choice question on the basis of the conductor, semiconductor, insulator, dielectric materials, and electric field in the materials, and current continuity in the uh, conductors, and conductor, current, etc. First multiple choice questions. Force in a conductor is dash to product of the charges. A, directly proportional. B, inversely proportional. C, not related. D, cannot be determined. The force in a current carrying conductor is directly proportional to the product of two charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Second multiple choice questions. Force in a conductor is to the square of the distance between the charges. A, directly proportional. B, inversely proportional. C, not related. D, cannot be determined. The force in a current carrying conductor is directly proportional to the product of the two charges and inversely proportional to the square of distance between them. Calculate the force between the two charges having the magnitude 3 nanocoulombs and 2 nanocoulombs separated by the distance of the 2 micrometers. A 13.5 Newton, B 13.5 kilonewton, 13.1.35 Newton, D 1.35 kilonewton. From the expressions, the F equal to the K Q1 Q2 upon R square, the value of the K being 9 into 10 to the power 9, we get force 13.5 kilonewton. The ratio of magnetic force to the electric force on a charged particles getting undeflected in a field is A 1, B 0, C 2, D 4. When a charged particle is undeflected in a field, the magnitude of the magnetic force and electric force acting on the particle is the same, hence the ratio is 1. If the flow of the electric current is the parallel to the magnetic field, the force will be A 0, B infinity, C, maximum. D, half the original value. Explanation: the force is a cross product. A cross product involves the sign of the angle between them. If the two quantities are parallel to each other, the angle between them is zero. Sine zero is zero, hence force is zero. Six, multiple choice question number six. The weakest force in the nature is A, electric force, B, gravitational force, C, weak force, D, magnetic force. Gravitational force is the weakest force in the nature as it does not bind anything strongly with its help. The next question, the relation between the direction of the current and the direction of the force is A, same direction, B, opposite direction, C, perpendicular, D, unrelated. When a conductor carries a certain value of the current, the force developed in the conductor, the current in the conductor, and the magnetic field in the conductor are mutually perpendicular to each other. It, by increasing the temperature, the resistance of a conductor A increases, B decreases, C remains constant, D initially increases then decreases. 9. The right hand rule for determining the direction of the induced EMF was introduced by A. Faraday law, Lenz law, Fleming, and Maxwell equations. Last and 10th question. Inside a hollow conducting sphere, A, electric field is zero. B, electric field is a non-zero constant. C, electric field changes with magnitude of the charge given to the conductor. D, electric field changes with distance from the center of the sphere. So the conclusion of today's lecture that after watching this video, student will understand the concept of the current, current density. They will also learn the conductors and the conventional and conduction type current in the conductors. They will also learn about the continuity of currents in the conductor. A part of this, student will understand the concept of the conductors, insulators, that is known as dielectrics, and semiconductor type of materials. They will understand the energy gap relationship between the three type of the materials such like conductor, insulators, and semiconductor. The student will also understand the electric field in the conducting materials or different materials. So in the coming lecture, next lecture, we will find the electric field in the conductor, insulators, that is known as dielectric, and semiconductor materials. So after watching this video, student uh, outcomes of the this video is that student will learn the continuity, conductor, insulator, dielectric materials, semiconductor materials. They will learn the current and conductor and electric field in